Hello and welcome to Canada's History Spring Webinar Series. This series revolves around visual history, and over the past few months we have heard from educators, public historians, and graphic designers who have spoken about their experiences using visuals to share Canadian history. We will continue to hear from these types of people about these experiences tonight and in 3 weeks from now for our final webinar of this series. My name is Jessica Knapp, and I will be your host for this series. Over the next hour, Monique Martin will look at some innovative ways to get history out on the streets of your city and have everyone, including your students, learn new things. Before we begin today's presentation, I would like to provide you with a quick introduction to Canada's National History Society. Canada's history is dedicated to promoting greater popular interest in Canadian history, principally through publishing, education, and recognition programs. If you are interested in knowing more or subscribing to our flagship publications, Canada's History Magazine and Kayak, Canada's History Magazine for Kids, please click on the links on the screen and save them for later. We are accepting both nominations and applications for the Governor General's History Awards for Excellence in Community Programming. If you are part of or know of a great community event, activity, or programming that commemorates important aspects of our heritage, please consider nominating them or applying for this award. We have extended the deadline to July 15th, 2016. To ensure the best experience possible, I would encourage you to close down any unnecessary programs you are running, or your computer is running. Currently, Photoshop being one of them. I've just closed mine because I forgot, and here we are. However, if there are issues today, we are recording today's webinar, and it will be available in a few days. And if you have registered for this webinar, you will receive an email when that recording becomes available. If you are on social media, please spread the word about our conversation tonight. I have included Canada's History's Twitter handle and Facebook link on the screen there, so go ahead and click on those. Like, follow, comment, share, tweet, and the like. If you have any questions during the webinar, you're welcome to ask them at any time, and Monique will answer them as she sees fit. And with that, will load up Monique's presentation and give you an introduction. And I will encourage Monique to begin. So Monique has been an art teacher for 18 years. She uses a wide variety of mediums and teaches that art can create change. Her students' work often focuses on environmental and social awareness. Monique received the Governor General's History Award for Excellence in Teaching in 2007 and the Prime Minister's Award for Teaching Excellence in 2009. Monique is a two-time winner of the National Teaching Award for combining art into other subject areas. In 2011, she received the Canadian Society for Education through Art Affiliate Award. Monique is an accomplished artist, exhibiting her artwork locally, nationally, and internationally. And with that, Monique, I invite you to unmute your microphone and join us for today's presentation.
Hi, everyone. It feels really weird to just talk to the screen, but I'll go for it. So my presentation is called Captive Audience Learning. It's a phrase I coined a while ago based on captive audience advertising, of course, where you're inundated with ads everywhere that you don't really want to read, but you're stuck reading them because of where you're at. I thought that was a great way to get information out into the world, but what if that information was about learning instead of trying to sell you something? So my first campaign that you can see on the screen, I partnered up with the Rideau Canal Festival, which is a World Heritage Site, and I partnered up with a school in Ottawa. I'm from Saskatoon. So my school and Vincent Massey School in Ottawa partnered up together to create an ad campaign on buses and bus stops and inside buses in 2009. And we put facts about the Rideau Canal and its history and how it came to be and all the kind of controversy around it that happened, all the different things were put onto these buses and rode around the city for 2.5 months. Now, there's all kinds of ways I funded this. That's your first question, going, holy smokes, she put something that big on the bus? That must have cost a lot of money. It did, but I had amazing sponsors, and the in-school costs, a lot of it was covered through Art Smarts grants, and then the external costs, a lot of it was sponsorship and mostly sponsorship and a few other grants. Here's another, oops, I gotta go on to my slides here. Here's another one of it going by the canal. Some of them were really large in scale. This particular drawing was done by a grade 2 child. We selected the canoe because we thought that would have been the first mode of transportation other than walking that was used in Canada. And it was also a link to the heritage of the Birkbark canoe and all of those things. So the children were all taught how to draw canoes. I did the instruction on the drawings. The children researched with their classroom teachers and with librarians, and in Ottawa with the archives, the National Archives they worked with in Ottawa, and came up with hundreds and hundreds of facts, which we later worked through, so there weren't quite so many facts about the canal. We had to pick our top ones. And here's another one. This one is by a grade 4 student, their canoe. This is just a little bit about captive audience learning where, you know, you're stuck, like I said, stuck reading it. And it's amazing after this campaign how many people said, yeah, I saw that fact go by on the bus that there's 42 rare species of plants on the Rideau Canal, or there's 72 locks on the Rideau Canal, those kinds of things. Or I didn't know that's why it was called Bytown. Okay, just simple things that people didn't know. I referred with my students to culture jamming because what we're doing is a bit of culture jamming where we're putting things where they are normally not, which is kids' art. So sticking kids' art on the side of the bus is very abnormal. Generally, we're used to advertising that looks very clean and pristine, has the perfect font and all of those things. But with the kids campaign, it really creates a different kind of energy and stops people in their tracks to take a look at it. Okay? So here's one, I just have some questions here that I can answer for you. This is the poster at the bottom here. Is one that was done by grade 3 students, and we had Colonel By visit the school in Ottawa, so the kids got to see him, you know, dressed up like Colonel By. And an entire classroom of students have their little Colonel By picture around the corner of this poster. This poster goes in a bus stop, so when you're waiting at the bus stop, there's a gigantic poster. So this poster talked about Colonel By and his influence on the Rideau Canal, and with the archives, we got an archival photo of Colonel By that the kids drew from. These kids will always remember who Colonel By is because of this project. The bus ads were all over the city. It makes a big difference to the kids, plus the community learned about Colonel By. Now, how do you come to work with a festival? Because I'm an artist, it's pretty easy for me because I'm out there doing projects all the time. People come to me constantly, can we work on this together? Can we do this together? I used to work a lot with the Canadian Tulip Festival, and the Tulip Festival director was Michel, and he came to me and said, I'm starting a new festival, I'd really like to involve kids. Do you have any ideas? Oh boy, did I have ideas, and we just went crazy with the ideas. Some of the biggest challenges Michel found with the project was geography. I do have a dream of doing one across the country, which is why I'm really excited about doing this project. I would like to see history facts about Canada on buses all the way across this country. 2017 would have been the perfect year, but it could happen at any point. And I would like to have facts about the different provinces and in other provinces so people learn about Manitoba or they learn about New Brunswick in another province. And the biggest challenge on this project was geography. The internet helps, that you can send files that way, but actually teaching the children how to do the art, which I'm going to show you soon, was pretty difficult. How did I get the programs? I did a project previous to this with the Engineers Association, and they saw how awful my computers were and that I was bringing my computer from home. So they donated computers to our program, which made a huge difference in the ability to do what we were doing. And funding this, yes, we did a lot. We had Art Smarts. Pattison Advertising is very supportive of children's projects, and they funded a lot of it. And we also had private sponsorship from different organizations in Ottawa. It's amazing when you ask to get donations for something for kids, it happens. It happens all the time. I've funded so many projects just by asking. The pluses for an organization like this, Michelle says that it creates a groundwork. If you're in a festival, you want people later on to think about your festival when they're older. And this is a perfect way. And the other thing is that these kids have a knowledge of the Rideau Canal. So when somebody comes now to Ottawa and visits that's a family member, they have all this knowledge that could definitely change how they show their city off. They have a little bit of a stronger knowledge. So I mean, any Canadian history fact, you could do a project like this. You could do one in Montreal, you could do one in Halifax. There's all kinds of projects that could be done like this, and everybody learns, not just the kids. Somebody standing at the corner learns something. The other way that people learned on this was that I had a website at the time, which I was just talking with my IT guy, is no longer hosted on our school division site. But the number of hits we got to the site when the project was ongoing was amazing, because people wanted to share the facts about it and what they'd seen. We talked a lot about, this is probably not as interesting to you as it is to a graphic designer, but the kids learned about font and how fonts make a difference in how you can engage an audience. They, of course, wanted to do fancy scripts at the bottom of their canoe and all of this stuff that nobody's going to read when the canoe's going by on the bus. So we had to get them to be a little more clear. So here's some of the street ads. These ones are pretty simple because they were just about advertising for the site. So the kids did the canoe pieces. This is a canoe piece done by a grade 6 student. This is pastel on just construction paper. And at the time, the festival was having people adopt a meter of the canal to do some World Heritage stuff. And I taught them the different graphic design elements, which was the important part for me, of me going back and forth between the schools, doing the graphic design and the teaching of the canoes, because of the knowledge I had that I could give the students. The teacher would not have been able to do that with their skills. She was a great music person, so it just depends on the skill set you have. I taught them about the golden rectangle and why ads are the shapes they are. And we don't need to show that, but here's one about the Rideau Canal that's very fact-based. Some students did it in this style, and this was at a bus stop. So somebody standing at a bus stop every morning would learn this. Just like you've read the back of the cereal box every morning, and you know everything there is to know about Frosted Flakes or Cheerios or whatever it may be, Raisin Bran, how many scoops they have, that kind of thing. The people at bus stops would learn a lot about the Rideau Canal in this way, and you can see how the golden rectangle was used to teach the children. I actually used this as an overlay when I set up the templates for the children. I had the golden rectangles there, and they could manipulate them to know how to better lay out their pieces. Parks Canada, before I go on, Parks Canada was a big sponsor of this, and so was UNESCO, because it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and Parks Canada, the Rideau Canal, is part of Parks Canada. Then these were just ones advertising for the festival. Here's one with some of the history facts, the Rideau Queen, the steamship. So a class of children were all given the image of the steamship. I took some students down to the archives to get that image, got the image of the steamship. Then an entire class of children drew the ship, and then we kind of had a vote on which one should go onto the bus ads. And we had all the sponsors come out, graphic designers, myself, the teachers. We all met and selected which student work would be the best ones to have on the ads. And then this is the UNESCO one. The kids' work is just stunning. The canoes they drew. That's a grade, I believe that's grade 6 that did those style. So again, here I'm using the rule of thirds as part of the, making it look right. Parks Canada, this in graphics I was talking about trapped space and how to use trapped space, but you can see that the facts were here. You can also see they're in French and English. My school is English only, and we worked with a school that was bilingual in Ottawa, and then we did hire a translator to make sure that we had it right, and then shockingly enough, well, not so shocking, we still had an error by the time we went up. It was terrible. The kids did do the editing with festival people in Ottawa of their graphics. So as they were finishing their graphics, they were sending them to various sponsors. So Parks Canada would have a designated person, and we would send the files to them and back and forth to have the kids switch up little things and change different elements. And a beautiful photo. That photo is from Parks Canada. It's a beautiful photo of the logs. Here's some of the kids working on their art, so you understand how little they are. They're just teeny tiny little people. They're not big people. But, and there's Colonel Bai visiting the school. So I took them right through basic art skills to make this happen. And here it is at my school. This is in Saskatoon, working on it. And you can, the one right down on the bottom right-hand corner is actually the little girl that was selected to do the one that was really, really large. And here it is close up of the big one. Okay, so at first we thought we would just pick the one, but all these little Colonel Bais were so amazing we couldn't select, so we did do the framing, which was very nice. And on this particular one, a young boy who, we all have them in our schools, that doesn't like to be there, he makes it difficult for everyone, including yourself, really caught on to graphics. And this is what he did. He came in noon hours. He worked on this thing forever to make it perfect. And so that was a huge success for me in the project, is having somebody engage in not just art, but in the history, into the sharing of knowledge. It was really good. So that was Brett. And this one's called, this is visual bridging, is a type of layout. This is the Bytown Museum in Ottawa. And the Bytown Museum sponsored this one, so they paid for the printing on this one. And they helped to decide which images of the museum went up. They also helped to work on the sentences that go with them. These were absolutely gorgeous in the bus stops. This is a pastel resist technique that I use with white glue resisting pastel. It's very, very effective to make things look kind of old and worn. Here's one, I was teaching alignment strategies. So, doing this campaign, there was a lot of thought put into it so that we weren't throwing out ads that are unattractive. We wanted to make them look extremely professional, even though they were done by children. Okay, so this is just about kind of how you would lay out the text. And I have all these templates if people want them. The War of 1812 one is very beautiful because the child did visual bridging, where they have an image in the background overlaid to bring out the image in the foreground. Again, all these sentences were researched by the children. Now, this was the crazy part of this whole project. It was a zero footprint project. I'm not saying it's crazy, it was really hard, crazy hard. The Lido Canal Festival was a zero footprint festival, which meant that we had to try to reduce our footprint completely. So to make the kids think about that, I took paint and every child's footprint, and they printed them on paper. Then we scanned each and every one of them, and then put them on this poster. So every child that was involved in the project has their foot on there. Not to scale, because we had to shrink some of them. But it was really kind of neat. The kids liked it that they were part of that. Here's the interior ads where people are riding the bus. Put up your hand if you ride the bus. I ride the bus, and I read the ads all the time. So these people on the bus got to learn about the canal, which I think is super exciting. And I think we have to have more of Canada's history out on the streets. And the reason I decided this is I was standing in a bus stop in south of France. I was living there in Nice as artist in residence. And I was standing at a bus stop, and there was a little placard with a history fact. And I thought, well, I didn't know that till I came to this bus stop. And every time I got off at a different bus stop, I checked for another fact. And so many of them had history facts. And I thought, isn't this a way to celebrate your country, to celebrate where your country came from? And so I came home, and that was the birth of this project. So I'll go through these fairly quickly, but you can see they are beautiful. I still love them. I have lots of them in my files. The interior bus ads, people probably learn more than the ones going by on the buses. But the going by on the buses were pretty cool too. Well, that just gives you the numbers. How many? King boards are what they're called on the side of a bus. And so we had 30 in Ottawa and 5 in Saskatoon. Saskatoon, we got totally donated once they found out how amazing the project was. They said, "You want some buses?" And I said, "Of course I want some buses." Look at this little person. Isn't she cute? I know you all think she's cute. Okay, here's, these are the big ones, the one on the sides of the buses. 19 kilometers of Rideau Canal were dug by hand. Think about that. We had trouble digging a little, trench to move water, like in the backyard. It's insane what they did. So here's the kids' canoes. These were done, I believe, by the grade 7 class in Ottawa. That's a cute one. Here's some more of the little people working on their canoes, just so you can tell. The scale of the canoes is quite large. I made them draw them quite large just to increase the crispiness on the buses so that we could have really solid files. I just love them. I'm still really proud of this project. This one is called the Flying Canoe. There's a legend of the Flying Canoe. And you should look it up. It's really great. The CBC has a little cartoon about it too. National Film Board, sorry, has a cartoon about it. And here's our new computers that we got. Very exciting. You can tell that child's excited. Yeah, the old ones were not that exciting. And there's a graphic designer we worked with coming in every once in a while that was part of our grant. And we had public exhibitions of the artwork in Ottawa and Saskatoon. And here they are in the streets. Cool! They were everywhere. And here's kids signing their posters in Ottawa at the big event when we launched them. Here they are inside buses. And some excited children because we had a party, which was also exciting. Colonel Bai came. And it looks like I said something there. I must have spoken. So here's the kids, and we had special Colonel Bai cocktails provided by Parks Canada. Yeah, they were like Shirley Temples, but we called them a Colonel Bai special drink or something. It was good. And there you can see the size of the ads on the side of the bus with the kids. Here's my students in Saskatoon. And this shows you how far-reaching the campaign was in Ottawa. So that's Bank Street, Byward Market, and the airport. So they were pretty much everywhere. And they were in Saskatoon. These are my buses. People probably in Saskatoon went, "Why are they here?" But, that's how it goes. And I'll quickly go through these so I can get you to the next of the campaign we did. They're pretty awesome. Look at her. She drew Colonel Bai. There's Colonel Bai. So I'd love to do a Canada-wide one. Put up your hand if you'd like to do that. I don't know if you can put up your hand. You can tell me later. We also made table tent cards. We took all the bus ads, and we got another sponsor. I can't remember who, it was a printer. Anyway, he printed them for free, basically. And they went to the restaurants, and the table tent card went around the poles and stuff floor in the centers of the tables. So the tourists in Ottawa that summer learned about the Rideau Canal through the tent cards. They were gorgeous. Then here's one I did on the history of engineering and geoscience in Saskatchewan, another graphic design project by my students. Children researched the historical engineering projects in Saskatchewan. We got some archive photos working with the association. The children developed the APEG's little cartoon here and did an entire campaign on this. Now what happened is the back of the posters had lessons about engineering and different things about engineering. And these posters were distributed to every classroom as a teaching tool. And my students were very innovative. The poster folded into sort of a book format, and the lessons were like a book on the back. It was a really neat project. Sask Education distributed them to every school in the province through the APEGs paying for the printing. So very, very, again, a historical campaign. And you can't read this small text, but there's lots of information about engineering in that text. This is the first project I did with history facts. This is my Saskatoon history facts, and I really liked this one because it made the children research places in their own city. So it was called Stops with History. So they had to find a bus stop that linked to some historical thing, like the airport. Here's where the airport is, and the bus stop at the airport had the history of the airport on it. And we had the bus stop by Wanuskewin, and we had, of course, the Mendel Art Gallery. John Diefenbaker, the children researched where he lived, and they put it as close as they could to his house, the bus stop closest to his house. We used to have this beautiful old arena, which is no longer there. So they put the history facts about that arena in the spot where the arena was. The interesting thing about this campaign is I had the children write poems. They worked with a local poet, and they wrote poems about their history research, and those poems were included on the bus ads. These ads didn't, or bus stop ads, these ads didn't go on buses, so they're a little text heavy compared to the other ones. But as you can see at the bottom, there's all my sponsors. I've worked with these sponsors so long now that they kind of know I'm coming, and they are prepared when I call them. This was the history of transit, so we tried to put it on the first location of a bus stop. And we also did interior ads about some of the things in the city. The kids did a really good job of these. They're very beautiful. So I've done other things, greeting cards, I've did all kinds of things, designed, okay, oops, I don't know why that one's there. Now this is what I did just recently. We have a new art gallery that's coming called the Remy Modern Art Gallery of Saskatchewan, and they have the largest collection of Picasso prints in the world because they were donated. And they came to me and said, you know, I said, why don't we do a banner campaign? And they said, that would be great because we can't use Picasso prints very easily because of copyright, which is a challenge and it's expensive. So what I did is I had the children make artwork in the style of Picasso, which you can see here, and they are still currently flying on the streets of Saskatoon. So, you know, sometimes it takes having somebody in a big business that takes a little bit of a risk and says, oh, yeah, that's a good idea, let's try that. These smaller banners are hanging in our farmers market, but again, they're about the Remy Modern Art Gallery. And there's some great videos online about this project. There was a lot of coverage. That's the other thing that when you're looking for sponsors, if you know the amount of coverage they get working with children is far greater than if they just put up a regular ad campaign. There's a phrase that says, publicity is priceless, but advertising is expensive. And advertising is expensive, but publicity, man, when you work with kids, everybody wants to talk to you about it, or them. They don't care about you so much, but they care about the kids. So here we are at the Picasso banner launch, and all the kids are in striped t-shirts because Picasso liked those striped t-shirts. It was super fun. And here they are going up. And here's a little person hardly believing that his is going up. And we had his go up last at the event. So again, the children had to research some of the history in Picasso's prints. Here they are making some prints. Here they are carrying their banners. And we also did Shakespeare in Saskatchewan. This is an excited child. Her banner's going up. We took Shakespeare sayings, the historical ones, that still resonate today or are still used today. Like people will say them and nobody knows why or where they came from. It was another learning campaign. So we put the phrase, the play, and the designs around the side that you see are reminiscent of William Morris. And the children had to go through the Shakespeare play and find all the symbols and meanings of different flowers and fruits and vegetables and whatever might be in the play. And they then did their designs based on that. Something is rubbing my microphone. Oops. Yeah, just hang on. I'll regroup my table. Is that better? Okay. So, as you can see, we used phrases that you still might hear. My favorite saying of the whole campaign that I still say to my children, and it's the one I have hanging. It's still rubbing? I'm not even near my microphone. Okay, is it better now? Yeah, I just won't try to move. I'll be very still. There's there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And I say that often to my children now because it's a really good phrase, and I have it hanging in my classroom. So these went down the riverbank for miles and miles, like 2.5 kilometers down the riverbank. So I'm a real believer in getting kids' art outside of the classroom or on the streets and having other people appreciate it and learn from it, which is kind of my big goal of all these things. So I think I used my half an hour, so now I'll open it to questions, and I'm not sure how to do that. Anybody have a question?
Thanks, Monique. I was wondering if you might talk a little bit about how other teachers might start doing this type of work with their students and in their classrooms. Maybe it's as simple as just getting them to respond to history lessons and understanding history through art. If you want to speak about that.
Yeah, it's really easy to do something like this. Like, you don't have to do it on this scale, obviously. One thing that is the best to teach children is how to capture a whole bunch of information in one sentence. That was the biggest learning curve to really doing any of the projects I did is how do you say something with only about 20 words, because that's all you can put on there. So if you get them to break down a paragraph into just a few sentences and then into one sentence and all of that, and then find your visual cues inside that history that could make your image. Using historical photos and redrawing them is a wonderful way for kids to do this. Now, if you want to get stuff on buses, you just phone your bus people and say, who sells your ads? Because for a company, they get a tax deduction if they involve children and give away advertising. So they're not that hard to convince to do this. And I know pretty much every province has Art Smarts, which is a foundation to fund art projects in schools. And applying is simple. In our province, you can get $10,000 for a project. And a project can be easily funded with $10,000. Does that make sense?
It does. Thanks very much. So, what age groups were you working with in your classrooms or outside of your classrooms? I think you mentioned that some of these students were not your students, but other students, other teachers' students, and you went in and worked with them. Can you
That's right.
That process and the age groups and the different work you do with the different age groups?
Yep. I did work with everything from kindergarten to grade 8 in both schools. In Ottawa, it was a little more difficult for me because the children there don't have the background that my students do in how to make art. So there was a little more actual teaching involved. We did everything from watercolor, pastel, oil pastel, chalk pastel, depending on their age. Most of the little wee people did watercolor just because of the simplicity of it. But as you saw in a few of those slides, the pastels by the older children were lovely. The learning curve was most difficult in drawing canoes because of the foreshortening. If you can think about, trying to draw something that's coming at you or going away from you is very hard. So there was a lot of active teaching, which was like PD for the teachers in the other school that don't teach art, or teach art but aren't a specialist in art. They really enjoyed the ability to have me come in and teach some of that stuff. As far as teaching about the facts and things, each school and each classroom approached it completely differently. But we gave each classroom had a theme, like you're researching the how it was built. You're researching all the number facts. How many facts can you find that have numbers in them? How many locks, how many meters long, how many kilometers? And so each classroom had a focus, because if we just said, do some research, it wouldn't have, it would have taken a lot longer and maybe not have been as in-depth. Any other questions, anybody? Anybody want to do a Canada-wide one?
That's a great idea, and that's I was trying to get my questions to lead to how do we start developing a framework for that. So what do we need to have a Canada-wide?
Well, everybody would have to apply for an Art Smarts grant, and I think we'd all get the money. And then just figure out a concept, a theme, and start asking the advertisers. And Pattison Advertising is nationwide, so they already have a history with me and know about me, so that might be helpful. But I think it's something to try. I don't think we could get it done by 2017. Art Smarts grants are generally due in November 1st, on November 1st of every year. And then the schools find out in January. But I think it'd be a bit of a rush right now. I'd hoped that in Ottawa we could have discussed more, but it just didn't work out. So I don't know, it'd be nice to get a teacher from every province together for one day somehow, like maybe this way, on this special way you do this, Jessica. And we say, yeah, we're in, what do we do now? You know?
Well, I think the first step is getting everybody to watch this webinar and then start preparing for that conversation. It might not be in person right away, but I mean, I know you know teachers across the country, and I know teachers
Yes, I do.
across the country. So it's not totally unfeasible.
No, I know our teachers across the country, and I know I work with a lot of them on various projects, so it's not impossible for sure. And I think too, I mean, we could probably get national funding for something like this from Heritage Canada as well. I'm pretty sure.
I think those are some really great ideas, and I don't mind putting the word out about this webinar, of course, and seeing what engagement is like. And we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it, Monique.
Yeah, I think it's we as Canadians, I don't think we know as many facts about Canada as we should. I think people immigrating to Canada and our new Canadians know more than some of the people who live here. And I think it would be good to try to change that a little bit at a time. I also think that we should lobby government, because there used to be I don't know if it's still in, but a certain percentage of music played on the radio had to be Canadian content. And I think a certain percentage of advertising in the world should be learning content, captive audience learning. That's just my own thing, and I have no idea how to make that happen. But I think it'd be great if it was like a policy, like a government thing, and you had to. Wouldn't that be great?
It would indeed. Karen has joined our conversation.
Okay.
And she said you should be able to see her comment in the chat box, Monique.
In the chat box.
She says she's a children's author, not a teacher, but she'd love to be a part of the national project.
Okay, that'd be great. That'd be excellent. That's when we could make a book about it after. Wouldn't that be cool? Wow. Anyway, I do think that something that, you know, the Governor General is very much about the history of Canada. I think he could be somebody to push that even one bus ad in a city a year has to be one about learning, or a month, or whatever. It's something the government does need to push so that we feel a real connection to our country, because sometimes that's missing. So, I don't know if there's any more. I'm here to help. I know how to do it. I've done it 3-4 times now. So I pretty much know what not to do. I know what to do.
So can teachers contact you teachers from across Canada, can they contact you to have you come into their classrooms and work with their students and give art lessons?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, for sure. I mean, I don't know how the History Society afforded to fly us all to Ottawa, but somehow you got us there. I mean, it's maybe something that if we get this project going, you find the same funder, whoever that was, and I fly and teach school for a week or something. And I'm going to be retired soon, so I won't even be missing work. So that'd be good. But then I could lead the art part, which is challenging, for sure.
Definitely. The works you and your students and these students together have created are really spectacular, and now I have to pay more attention in Winnipeg to see if this is happening, and to see if I can talk to anybody about it in this city.
Well, I know Jennifer Jadson
Yep.
at the University of Winnipeg. She would be keen on doing something like this. And she actually flew me out. She actually flew me out a few years ago to work with her students on connecting art to history, making a visual history project. Because most people are visual in their learning. So if we can stick it out there visually, it makes a difference. You know, what if we had history facts on the back of bathroom stalls instead of, you know, go buy chicken wings at wherever, they're cheaper. You know what I mean? Like, that would be exciting.
Absolutely. I am a great advocate of getting history in all the nooks and crannies where everybody is going, and making them interested or encouraging them to be interested. I don't know if we can force people to be interested, but
No,
uh,
but you know, sorry to interrupt you, you accidentally read so many things in your life that come out later in conversation with someone. You go, oh, I saw this wherever, I saw this wherever. It would be great if it was a history thing that somebody saw and was talking about at a dinner party by accident because they just saw it somewhere. Because after high school, a lot of people don't pick up a history book to learn anything. They choose to just disengage. And I find these projects are a way to continue to have the community engage at the same time as the children, which is, I think, sensational.
absolutely, I think building that opportunity for students to engage with their community is invaluable.
Yeah. If any of you are from Ottawa, I have an exhibition in Ottawa. I'm there. When am I there? July 6th to 12th. So if any of you are in Ontario and would like to meet, that'd be great. I'm also in Toronto with an exhibition September 13th to 18th. So those are two opportunities where I'm already there for free. And I'm in Vancouver next week with some art stuff from the 22nd to 26th. So those are all chances where I could easily meet with somebody and get it partway going, or give them hands-on tips, or even help them to call Pattison Advertising. I have worked with Pattison in Vancouver as well, and in Toronto.
I recommend anybody to get into contact with you, Monique.
My email, it's Monique at moniqueart.com. I'll type it on that little thing. That's me. And I'll put my phone number too. Because I have free Canada-wide calling, so you can call me anywhere, anytime. Well, maybe not when I'm sleeping. Uh-oh, this is recorded. I'm going to sound silly. Oh, well. That's me.
It'll be perfect, Monique. Okay, with that, oh, I actually don't see your message there, Monique.
Oh, sorry. I have to hit return. There we go.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. And if anybody has any, Karen, if you had any additional questions, anybody else have any questions tonight, now would be the time to ask. Monique, did you have anything else to add to our conversation today?
No, but other than I do travel a lot, so if you're from elsewhere and you're really interested, let me know where you're from, because a lot of times I'm sitting somewhere for 3 or 4 hours doing nothing, waiting for a plane. So we could possibly use that if you just want to let me know, maybe type in where you're from, and then I'll keep a mental note of that. And I know that Jessica would have your contact. Oh, Kelowna! I'm coming through Kelowna in just, when am I there? August. First week of August, because I have an exhibition in Castlegar. So Karen, we could meet. I need a pit stop in Kelowna anyway. Anybody else? Where are you from? And Kelowna.
Well, you know,
Oh, Karen in Kelowna. Karen in Kelowna. The guy that did the Picasso project with me, you know, you saw the Picasso one? He is now the director of marketing and tourism in Kelowna. And I just met with him 2 weeks ago when I was doing something else near there. And he would be so on board. He would jump all over it. So maybe all of us need to meet him about something else. You could get the history of Kelowna somewhere. He's wonderful. That's great. We need to meet, Karen. Karen's typing something. Oh, Awesome. Okay, that's just a perfect that's a perfect connection. So yes, Karen, we definitely need to meet when I go through Kelowna. So you have my contact. Just pop me an email, and then I'll get back to you when I'm near there.
Excellent. This webinar has done its job, connecting
Okay, good.
people in different parts of Canada.
Awesome.
So thanks, Monique, for your presentation today. It is recorded, and I might clean it up a little bit for the recording.